Welcome back to Personal Productivity Using Technology with Dr. X. We are way ahead and we are getting to chapter 4 Excel after a wonderful chapter with charts that were quite artistic. We're getting back to data because Excel is all about data, about handling different types of data, and we're going to see a really nice way of doing this by using tables. So the objectives for today's class would be to be able to handle large sets of data and be able to see those, to view those large sets of data, and furthermore to be able to print these large sets of data. On the second half of this video, I will explain what is a table in Excel. You may remember that we have looked at tables with Microsoft Word, and we said that these are simple text table, a little bit dummy. There's not many things, many complicated calculations that we can do with this, but yet we were able to sort and filter the tables with Word, Microsoft Word. Now we will look at how much more sophisticated are the tables with Microsoft Excel. We will create a table and apply a table style. So let's get started. And of course, as always, I will open a Windows Explorer where I have downloaded from my class course documents, Excel, documents used in Excel. I have already downloaded the document E04C1 houses. So here we are now. This is a large set of data, and it can be even larger. I mean, you can imagine a company that has real estate agents that are selling houses can have multiple real estate agents, hundreds of houses, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do here first is we're going to look at this data and try to have a good view of this data, to be able to visualize this data well, because there's a lot of data, and once I start scrolling down, for example, I start losing what each column means. I mean, what is the Alpine, what is Mencus, and what are all these values here, the dates and the different prices. So I have to have these titles following me. So the way I can do this is, of course, it has to do with the view, the way I see my data, and I would like to freeze in a way the top row so that I can see it even if I scroll down my data and my Excel spreadsheet and I lose the top row. So there's this freeze panes that is changing my view, but it doesn't change anything in my spreadsheet. It's just changing the way I view my data, and I can freeze either the top row or the first column. In this case, I want to freeze the top row, so freeze the top row. And as you can see now, I am scrolling down with the mouse and the top row is following me, and I can keep seeing that this value is a list price, this value is a selling price, and Mencus is a selling agent. So far so good. If I want to unfreeze and be able to normally see my data again, that's good. But let's think about that. Okay, we have two templates. We can freeze the top row and the first column. But what if I want to freeze the top row and the first column, as I've highlighted here? Then I have this freeze panes whole part, so I can use this third option to have a more customized freeze pane. So let's say I want to freeze the first 4 rows. I can use the first option, and as you can see, the first 4 rows now, actually 5 with the titles, are frozen. I may want to do some comparisons with the first top 4 rows. But if I want to freeze a row and a column, the trick is, and I'll give you this trick because it's been proven very useful several times for me when I handle multiple sets of data, and especially scientists like marine scientists, biologists, and of course nurses, economists have to handle large sets of data. So if I want to freeze the first row and the first column, I will move the mouse selection, the mouse pointer, and click on the cell that touches both the first row and the first column. So this is a unique cell, the cell that touches with the top side the first row. It's B2, and it also touches the first column with its side, left side, and again it's B2. So this is the intersection between the first row and the first column. The intersection between the second row and second column is C3, and so on and so forth. So you're trying to find the cell that touches both the row and the column that you would like to freeze, and then select the first option, freeze panes. Now look how cool that is. Now I've got the first row freezing, and I also have the first column frozen. So all of these are really cool ways for me to be able to view this data, but it doesn't change the data. Now if I go to print this data, you can see that I've got multiple pages of data. For this, in this case, I've got 3 pages, okay? Of course I can do the scaling, I can use the scaling and fit in one page, but that's not a good printout. I'm probably not going to be able to see everything. So there's different things that I can do to print my rows, to print my spreadsheet properly. And all of these options are in page layout. So here's the thing, I can set a print area. For example, let's say I want to select the first 40 or the first 30 records to print. And then print area, set print area. If I go back to printing, or print preview as we call this backstage print, you can see that my print area is now the 27 records that I've chosen. Actually, yeah, I chose just 27 records. So it was up to row 30, but I also have a title row. So anyway, I've set a print area. I can always clear that one, and I can still go and print my whole worksheet, the whole sales data, in multiple pages. Going back to print preview, so here I will go to no scaling, and I can see I have 3 pages. Now here's again the same problem that I had before I froze the panes. There I do not have any title columns in my printout. So if I want to create title columns again in the page layout, I can go to print titles and select a row or a column that could be my title. In my case, I've got a row that I want to repeat. It's this first row. And then I could also select the column to repeat to be A. In this case, the page is not too wide, so I can see the first column all the time, but in case it was really wide and I wanted to keep the first column, that's the way I would do it. Different options to print, down and over, then down, or if it's a very wide page, I may want to print over and then go to the next page that is after. So go to the records that are after. So if I had a very wide page, this would print first the width of the page. So if I click OK here now, I can go back to print preview, or you have seen that there was an option to go back to my print preview. And if you look at my pages now, that's really nice because I have my title page repeating as I'm trying to print a large amount of data. So that's very good, and that's the first way to handle large data sets. Okay, this is not a database that I would use an Microsoft Access program. This is not as large set of data as a database, and also a database has a little bit different organization, more sophisticated organization, and it can have multiple sets of tables. A database can have multiple sets of tables, but here I only have one table. And really, I do not have a table yet until I modify this document and create a table. So I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze the panes. It's just a view, or you can keep it as it was. But the thing is, now what I want to do is insert a table. So this table Excel can figure out which cells have data and select this table, and the table is a structured range of data in Excel. It's quite different than a Word table. It's not as dummy as a Word table. They look the same, but an Excel table has many features, such as headers. So you can see that Excel already recognizes that you have a header. You have a header row that describes the contents of the records of the table. So one of these rows is a record. The first record has address 8687 Kenwood Road, city Cedar Hills, selling agent Hernandez, and so on and so forth. So that's my record, this whole row. 2, I have my headers that are in the very first row, and I can have even more things with the table, as we will see later. I can filter, I can have, as you can see, I have a whole extra tab. Whoopsie! And here we are, extra tab. I can have all these nice features, even more special tables, even smarter tables, which unfortunately we're not going to review in this class, pivot tables. I can go back and convert this to a range, and now this is no longer a table and I don't have my additional tab, but I'm going to go ahead and recreate my table. I can go and name my table my first table, and I can resize, and then I have all these different table styles, so I can change my table style, and let's say I want to have a different type of style, different colors, and different highlighting, and lighten it up, and all these different things. So the most important thing that I would like to look at with you is the table style options. In the next video, we're going to see how we can create different rows, a total row. We already have a header row, and as you can see, it's frozen. And in the next, not frozen, I'm sorry, it has some menus. In the next video,